Hey, welcome! Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the magic that lets a single website look amazing on your phone, your tablet, and your giant desktop monitor. We're diving into responsive web design. It's pretty much the secret sauce that makes the modern web work for all of us, no matter where we are.
Come on, we've all been there, right? Pinching and zooming like crazy, scrolling sideways just to see the end of a sentence. It's so frustrating. Well, that exact headache is the problem responsive design was born to fix.
And the solution is what we call responsive web design, or RWD. At its heart, it's just an approach that lets one website change its own layout to give you the best possible view on any device. The whole point is to make reading and navigating super easy with almost no weird resizing or scrolling.
So, to really get how this all works, here's our game plan. First, we'll look at why websites break to begin with. Then we'll get into the flexible building blocks and the smart rules that let them adapt. And finally, we'll cover the modern tools for building layouts and a really important strategy called mobile first. Okay, so the main problem really comes down to the old way of building websites. Just imagine trying to use one single rigid blueprint to build a house on a dozen different sized pieces of land. It just wouldn't work. Early websites were built like that, with fixed sizes in pixels, designed for just one screen size, and that's it.
To fix this, we have to think completely differently. Imagine you're building a website not like a normal house, but more like a modular one, made out of flexible, almost elastic materials. That's the core idea of responsive design. You start with a foundation that can literally stretch and shrink. And this slide right here shows that huge shift in building materials. We're moving away from absolute units, like pixels, which are kind of like unbending steel beams, and we're moving towards relative units. These are our rubber bands. They let everything scale based on something else, like the size of the screen, or even the size of the text.
Let's quickly break down the most common of these flexible units. A percent, well, it sizes something based on the container it's inside of. A rem unit is really cool. It bases size on the user's default font setting, which is amazing for accessibility. And VW or VH, those are based on the width or height of the browser window itself. They give us incredible control to create truly fluid designs.
So we have our flexible materials, but how does the website know when to actually change its shape? Well, for that, our digital house needs some smart sensors. These sensors are constantly checking the environment, specifically the screen size, and they trigger changes when needed.
In the world of web design, these sensors are called media queries, and honestly, they're just simple if-then rules. A media query basically says, hey, if the screen is smaller than a certain width, then I want you to apply these new styles. It's the brain that powers the whole adaptation process.
Let's see it in action. On a big desktop screen, we might have this beautiful, spacious three-column layout. See? Everything has plenty of room to breathe. It looks great. This is our starting point.
Now, we bring in our sensor rule. We're basically telling the browser, okay, listen up. When the screen width drops to 768 pixels or less, about the size of a tablet, I've got a whole new set of instructions for you.
And bam, here's the result. The moment that screen gets smaller than our set point, those three columns automatically stack up into one single neat column. The content is now perfect for a tablet. No more horizontal scrolling. It's the same exact content, just rearranged for a way better experience.
Now, building these kinds of adaptable layouts used to be, well, a real pain. But today, developers have two incredibly powerful tools that make it so much easier: Flexbox and CSS Grid. Think of these as the modern, high-tech blueprints for our responsive house.
These two tools do different things, but they work together perfectly. Flexbox is your go-to for arranging things in a single direction, either in a row or in a column. Think of it like neatly organizing books on a shelf. CSS Grid, on the other hand, is for the whole two-dimensional layout of the page, letting you control both rows and columns at the same time.
Flexbox is just fantastic for smaller pieces, like a navigation menu or a group of product cards. You just tell a container display flex, and suddenly you have all these powerful alignment options. And with a simple command like flex wrap, you can tell the items to just drop down to the next line when they run out of room. That right there is a cornerstone of responsive behavior.
CSS Grid, though, gives you this incredible control over the entire page structure. You can create really complex layouts using flexible FR units, that just means fraction, to divide up the space perfectly. You can even name different areas of your grid, like header or sidebar, and then just completely rearrange them for different screens. It is a wildly efficient way to manage layouts.
Of course, a responsive house isn't much good without responsive furniture. You can have the most perfect layout in the world, but if the content inside it, the images and the text, is rigid, the whole experience just falls apart.
Oh, we have all seen this. A giant image that runs off the side of the screen, forcing you to scroll sideways, or one that just completely breaks the page. That's what happens when an image has a fixed pixel size and has no idea how to shrink with its container.
But the solution is, well, it's so simple and elegant, you're going to love it. This one little line of code, max width 100%, just tells the image you can be your normal size, but you are never allowed to be wider than the container you're in. And height auto just makes sure it doesn't get stretched out. And just like that, our images are perfectly fluid.
All right, now we get to a really fundamental shift in strategy. Instead of designing for a big desktop screen and then trying to subtract things and squish it all down for a phone, the modern way flips that entire script. It's a philosophy called mobile first.
So what does that actually mean? It means you start your design process on the smallest, most difficult screen, the mobile phone. You build a solid, functional core experience there first. Then, using media queries that look for a minimum width, you progressively add more features and complexity as more screen space becomes available.
And why would you do this? Well, there are a few huge reasons. First, it forces you to focus on what content is absolutely essential, because you just don't have room for clutter on a tiny screen. This also means better performance, since mobile users, who might be on slower connections, only have to download the most important stuff. But it gets even better. Search engines like Google actually prioritize mobile-friendly sites, so this can help your search ranking. And a great mobile experience means people are more likely to stick around, which lowers your bounce rate. It just makes sure that everyone gets a great core experience.
So when you put all of this together, the flexible units, the smart media queries, and the modern layout tools, you start to see that responsive design is way more than just a bunch of techniques. It's really a philosophy that puts the user first. It's about creating one web that gives a great experience to everyone on any device they happen to be using. And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating thought. We've gotten really good at making websites adapt to the size of our screens. So what's the next frontier? Maybe it's interfaces that adapt not just to our screen, but to our actual context. Where we are, what time it is, or what we're trying to do. The fluid architecture of the web is definitely still evolving. Thanks so much for joining me.